Alright guys, since a lot of you seem to have forgotten some of your declension basics, I figured I'd review those here with you. Nothing about the actual formation of the declensions, but rather what the declensions are for and what they do in context. So you might remember you have 6 separate cases in Latin. The cases are the forms that nouns and adjectives take and which change depending on the function which those nouns and adjectives have in the sentence. Okay, so you might remember that the nominative case functions as the subject of the sentence. So whenever you see nominative case, you know that you're dealing with the subject. That's the only thing the nominative case does. The vocative case is used to address someone directly. This is used whenever you're calling someone by name. So if you are trying to talk to your friend Billy, and you say, "Hey, Billy, come over here," you would be using the vocative case in Latin. Usually, the vocative case will look exactly the same as the nominative case, except for nouns from the second declension that end in us. You might remember that those change their vocatives into an e. So dominus becomes domine. The accusative case is used for the direct object of a transitive verb. So you might remember that those are cases where the verb performs action on something. So if you said Billy hit Susie, then hit is a transitive verb. It takes a direct object. Billy is your subject, and then Susie is the one receiving the action of the verb. So she's the direct object. The genitive is used to express possession. In English, we usually use either apostrophe s or of to indicate this. The dative is for the indirect object. So if you wanted to say Billy gave a flower to Susie, notice that Billy is your subject, gave is a transitive verb, and then a flower is the direct object because it directly receives the action of the verb, and then Susie is the indirect object because she indirectly receives the action which has been performed on the direct object. She's in effect receiving the result of the action performed on the direct object. And then the ablative, you guys already know, there's a bazillion different ways to use the ablative. A lot of them express either agency. So if you wanted to say Susie was hit by Billy, you'd need the ablative for by Billy. If you wanted to say Susie goes to the store with Billy, then Billy would need to be in the ablative. You'd use cum in that case. If you wanted to say that Susie is in Italy, you'd use in Italia in the ablative, etc., etc. So let's look at these in context. In this chapter 21, we're using the noun janitor, which you might remember is a doorman. So in the nominative, as the subject, the janitor januam aperit. The doorman opens the door. Note that doorman is the subject. He's the one who's performing the action of the sentence, so he needs to be in the nominative case. The vocative case, if someone came up and started banging on the door and said, "O janitor, aperi januam," "Oh, doorman, open the door," then he'd be talking to the doorman directly. That's the vocative case. Notice that the vocative case looks just the same as the nominative case for most of these nouns. The accusative is, you might remember, when you need a direct object. So if you said Julius janitorem salutat, Julius greets the doorman, notice that Julius does something to the doorman. He greets him, right? And so the janitor becomes a direct object, and you need to indicate that by changing the ending and using janitorem there. All right. In the genitive, you could say officium janitoris, there you have your genitive ending, est januam aperire. It is the duty of the doorman to open the door. Note that genitive you'll use of. The dative, dominus nullam pecuniam janitori dat. You notice here the master gives no money to the doorman. And then in the ablative, canis sedet cum janitore. There, your ablative ending indicates is the dog is sitting with the doorman. All right, that's just a basic rundown of the cases. Hopefully that's refreshed your memory a little bit. If not, you can, of course, ask me about it in class.